Hey, welcome, my name's Abby. It is November 14th. I need a distraction, and I figured why not try to finish my Traveler. I'm almost done spinning. Well, I'm almost done spinning the singles, and then I need to ply. But I'm getting close. I had a loose goal of finishing it by the end of the year just to wrap it up, but I really want to start some new projects. So I'm just going to try to finish this as quickly as I can. If you're not caught up, this is for the Spin It to Knit It cowl that Andrea Mowry is hosting. It ends next February. And for mine, I'm doing a combo spin. I'm using two different colorways and I'm plying them together, and this is how it's turned out so far. I finished the body and I am just about done with one sleeve. I just need to do the tubular bind off. I knit the sleeve once and I didn't space out the decreases enough, so I had to frog it and redo it, but I'm almost caught back up. 1 second, I'm gonna close my blinds. I am just about out of yarn, so I'm spinning my next skein, which will hopefully be the last skein. So where I'm at on spinning, I finished the full 5 ounces of the last braid of this colorway. And then I also have some singles left over from the other braid that I spun. So I have that, and then I'm currently working on spinning my final braid, and I have probably about 2 ounces left, is what I'm estimating. I have this little nest and also this one. So here's where I'm at on that. I also have some extra fiber from this BFL braid. This was a braid with 3 colors. I didn't want one of the colors, but I knew that the black and the brown would work in this combo spin if I needed some extra fiber. So I did spin some of this and I applied it with this colorway. These braids were 5 ounces, so I had some extra. And if I need to, I'll do that again. So I will just spin this as a single all together and then ply it with whatever of this colorway that I have left over. I'm sort of hoping that I don't need to do that, but I'm anticipating that I will need to, so that's what I have left to spin. And then I also will be spinning a separate color for the drawstring. So back here, these were the colors that I bought trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So I think I'm either going to spin the darker green or the light cornflower blue. I still haven't decided. I think the safest one is the green because it definitely just goes with these colors really well, and then the blue is sort of it's just very bright and will stand out, and so I haven't decided which one I want to go with yet, but I will need to spin some yarn for that as well. So tonight I'm going to focus on binding this off. I just need to do like a few setup rows and then the bind off, so it's not going to take me long. And then I also am going to focus on spinning. I think I can get through the Wee Chickadee, this one that I'm currently spinning. I think I can get through all of this tonight if I focus on it, so that's gonna be the plan. And then I can hopefully get to some plying here soon, which I really enjoy because you can just kind of turn your brain off and it's very rhythmic and I just like it. Finished. I got all my single spun last night and I just sat down to start plying. I was trying to ply while I was talking with you, but it was too loud, so I just filmed a little clip that we can watch while I chat. I'm finally done with work. It is early evening on a Friday. I just made a pot of chili, so that's on the stove, and I'm gonna make some cornbread for tonight. I'm gonna make it my goal to finish plying tonight so that I can get the skein soaking and drying overnight. And then tomorrow morning I can pick up the second sleeve and start knitting again. Once I finish spinning tonight, since I won't be able to knit on my traveler tonight, I am planning on working on pitch. Here's where I'm at on the left front. I have about 2.5 hours of knitting to finish up the repeat before I start the underarm shaping, so it's sort of slow going, but I'm just working on it whenever the mood strikes. It's not the most fun to work on, so I'm sort of getting in a repeat here and there. I'm gonna put in another 10 minutes or so of plying, and then I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine, start the cornbread, and eat some dinner. So I want to do a little traveler try on to show you how it's fitting. So this is it. I have blocked the body, so this length is really where it's going to hit me, but I haven't blocked the sleeve, and it's a little, I mean, I think it's the perfect length right now, but this stitch pattern grows quite a bit, and so I think it's going to be a little bit long, but I'm hoping that once I get the neck on, especially since it has a hood, it'll kind of pull it up more, and so I think it'll be a decent length once it's blocked, but I'm not too concerned about it. I don't necessarily mind having long sleeves, especially with something this cozy and kind of oversized in general. So yeah, this is how it is fitting. I think the body fits quite well, and it is pretty cropped. I don't think I added any length. Sometimes I do for like really cropped sweaters, just because I don't always want them like super cropped. These pants are quite high-waisted, so it's perfectly fine with these, but I usually wear high-waisted pants most of the time anyway. I finished plying, and I wanted to show how I get my yarn from the bobbins into a skein to soak. But you can see I have my Swift set up sideways, which makes it so much easier to spin it quickly. And so all I do is I tie my yarn onto one of the like little spokes just to get it started, and then I just start winding it on. My Swift is set to about 60 inches around. It doesn't really matter the exact diameter. But it's good to know if you want to use that to measure the length of your yarn. And then I just have my bobbins set up on this little Lazy Kate, and that just holds them. I have a homemade Lazy Kate. I also have this one. It doesn't really matter as long as you are able to tension the bobbins just a little bit so they don't like spin out of control. And then it's really just as simple as spinning your Swift, just like this. And I do usually do this two-handed, so I'll hold the strand just to give it even more tension as I wind it onto the Swift. I find this method so much faster than using a nitty knotty. Those are fine, but they just take a long time and a lot of arm effort. And especially in a situation like this, I'm really just trying to get this off the bobbin and into the bath as quickly as possible. So I wanted to show that because I have not found very many resources on how to do this step quickly. I feel like everyone just kind of recommends the nitty knotty, and that's fine, but it's just pretty slow. So this is how I like to do it a lot faster. Hello, it is Saturday. It is no longer the morning. We are now into the afternoon, and I'm checking in now because my yarn has finally dried. I knew it wasn't going to dry overnight on its own. I should have put like a fan on it, but I honestly was just being lazy. So when I woke up this morning, it was still very damp, and I finally put a fan on it. And by the late afternoon, it's about 3:30, it is now fully dry and I can work on it, work with it. So here it is. It's a giant skein. It's very plumpy and it looks very similar to the last skein that I made, and I think it's gonna work really beautifully into my sweater. I wanted to point out that if you look at the body of my sweater, you'll see a decent amount of gold, which was in the first braid that I spun. There was quite a bit of gold in that particular braid, and there's no gold in this skein, and there wasn't any in the previous skein. So in the top of the sweater and in the sleeve, there's no gold. And this was just one of those things that I decided wasn't going to bother me. Of the one colorway, I bought the first braid in person, and then several months later I ordered that same colorway from the same indie dyer, and it just ended up a little bit different. And it is what it is, and I'm fine with it, but I just wanted to point it out in case you noticed that and wondered what was up with it. So now I can finally cake this up and start on my next sleeve. I'm really excited to just get that picked up because I'm hoping that it goes super fast. The first sleeve didn't at all. It felt like it took forever. I felt like I was working on that sleeve for so long, and it might be because I already knit the sleeve. It might be because the stitch pattern is a little bit slower. Maybe it was just all of the current events that made me feel like I aged 10 years and the sweater aged with me. So I always like to set goals for myself on a project, and it just keeps me motivated and interested. I was thinking about it this morning, and I would like to finish this sweater by Thanksgiving. That might be a little ambitious, perhaps a little delusional, but how many days do I have? 11 days to knit a sleeve and a hood. I think I can do that. The wrench that might get thrown into my plans is that I might still need to spin some yarn. So here's what I have left over from the bobbin that I showed you earlier, and I would still need to spin the BFL, like that extra part of a braid that I have. So I still need to spin that, and then I would need to ply it with this and the other leftover bobbin. If I don't need to spin that, I think I can get it done no problem. But spinning and washing your skein and letting it dry and all of that just takes time. So I don't know. I am probably delusional, but that's my goal. So because I couldn't work on my traveler this morning, I pulled out my Sawana. I did work on pitch last night. I got, I think, 2 repeats done on that, but it's just really boring at this point, and I'm really excited about finishing this sweater. Here's where I'm at. I showed this off in my last vlog, I think. So I finished the neck and I finished the body, and then it just sat there for a while, and this morning I picked up one of the sleeves and knit a decent chunk on that. Also, I forgot to show you my chili last night, but it turned out delish. So instead, I'll show you the butternut squash mac and cheese that I made for lunch today. This is a copycat recipe of the Trader Joe's butternut squash mac and cheese, and if you like that, I highly recommend making this recipe. It's even better. It was so good. And while I was in the kitchen, I also baked a little cake to take over to our friend's house. We're going over for dinner tonight, and I made a swirl jam cake. The top of it looks a little weird, so I also made some whipped cream to put on top, or I might cover it with some more jam on top. I haven't decided yet. If you're wondering, I decided to top it with the jam, but I forgot to get a photo, so you'll just have to trust me on that. This is a bit of a weird area to film, but I wanted to get my new flowers in the background because they're so pretty. I'm working on my sleeve and I'm almost done with this round, so I'm just gonna finish knitting this while I talk to you about how much setting knitting goals works for me. I am just intrinsically motivated by whatever arbitrary knitting goals I set for myself because I am almost done with this whole sleeve. It's only been 2 days since I last checked in, and here's where I'm at. So I picked up for the sleeve on Saturday and then I didn't knit anymore. On Sunday and yesterday, Monday, I knit the majority of this. Work was kind of chaotic today, but I was able to get a little bit of knitting done during some meetings. I would say I probably got like this much done today, and I'm almost ready to start the cuff. I've got like 2 more repeats and then the cuff, and then the sleeve's done. So I'm definitely on track, if not ahead of schedule. I am also looking good on how much yarn I have left. I might not run out. This might be enough for the hood. So we'll have to see. Like I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but I might be able to just knit the hood and not have to spin anymore, at least for the main color. I'm still trying to figure out what color I want to spin for the drawstring. I did a poll on my Instagram and the results were very close. The majority of you voted for green by a thin margin, which is what I'm leaning towards at this point. But the results were a lot closer than I expected. I think I'm just gonna have to go with my heart when the time comes. Until then, I'm just gonna keep working on my sleeve. My plan is to finish this tonight and then I can pick up for the hood and get started on that, which I think is gonna be a lot of knitting. And actually I created a spreadsheet a while ago to track my progress on this sweater as I work through each section and to figure out how many stitches there are in each section and then also in total, so that I can figure out where I'm at percentage-wise relative to the finished object. So we're gonna take a look at that right now to see how many stitches there are in the hood, and we can compare that to the sleeve to figure out like where I'm at with the rest of my timeline. I could also figure out how many stitches I need to knit a day in order to hit my goal. I'm not sure if I want to get that granular about it. I think I just kind of want to go based off of vibes. As of now, I have 8 days left, which to me still seems doable, but let's take a look at my spreadsheet. Okay, I'm scrolling down to the first sleeve. So I'm going to subtract the total number of stitches once I finish the first sleeve by how many stitches I have when I start the first sleeve. Okay, so one sleeve has 8,565 stitches, and then I'm gonna do the same thing with the hood. So I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom. Oh, I just realized I don't have the drawstring in here, but whatever. So we'll say total stitches minus where I'm at when I start the hood. Oh wait, I did include the I-cord. Okay, so with the hood and the I-cord, that is a total of 18,278 stitches, which is double the, over double the amount of stitches in a sleeve, which I think is fine because I knit this sleeve in like 2 days, basically in 2.5 days, and if I really focus on this, I can definitely get this done. The one caveat is that while this may be doable, I don't want to strain myself physically. So if I start to feel like I'm going to get injured or I just start to feel really sore, like I'm gonna put the knitting down. I'm not gonna figure out how many stitches I need to knit per day because like I knit so much more on the weekends, and because of that it doesn't really make sense for me to split it up by day. Like some days I can knit during the day in meetings and other days I can't, and it just depends on what I have going on. So I'm gonna leave it at that. It is so rainy and dark outside. It's like 4:30 and it feels like 8 p.m. But it's Thursday, which means it's exactly a week until Thanksgiving, and I figured we needed a change of scenery, so I'm in my living room today. Work is basically wrapped up for the day, and we're about to head out to go pick up some dinner and run some errands. But as you saw, I finished my second sleeve and I picked up for the hood, and I've made some pretty good progress over the last day and a half. Look at that. It is really looking like a hood. I have started the short row shaping, so I'm like a quarter of the way into that. And so I'm shaping the top part of the hood, but I've completed like the first part. As you can see, here's the back of it. And it's actually going faster than I expected, especially for like how many stitches there are. I mean, I know there's a lot to go, and I also will need to do the casing all the way around, which is probably another part of this that's like deceptively a lot of stitches and will take some time. And then of course I still need to spin for the drawstring and make the I-cord, and then like sew or seam it all together. So still a ways to go, but I'm feeling pretty confident right now. My hubris is probably not warranted, but I'm gonna work on this until it's time to leave. Last night I made a veggie pot pie for dinner. This is just a video of me telling you what I cook. And I baked some sprinkle sugar cookies, and it's now fully cookie season. Is that a thing? And while I was baking, I finished the audiobook that I was listening to. It's called We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleaver, and I saw it on BookTube. I think it also made the rounds on Bookstagram and BookTok. It was quite interesting. I think I would broadly recommend it if you like spooky horror books. I found out after I finished it that it was started on Reddit. It got started on the subreddit No Sleep, which made sense to me after I finished it. To be honest, it was a little confusing, and I think the ending was like intentionally pretty ambiguous. So there's like a couple different ways you can interpret it. There were quite a few like loose ends and just a lot of like stuff throughout the novel that you think is going to be important, and then it kind of just like dissipates. So if you really dislike that, like, I don't recommend the book, but if you can handle that, the vibes were spooky. I'm not sure what the plans are tonight, but whatever we decide to do, I need to fit this in because I do not have time to lose. Okay, I'm knitting along, I'm watching my show, and I shit you not, I had the thought, it's a good thing that I haven't made a mistake yet. And I looked down at my knitting, and for about 3 inches, the pattern was off. So I spent the last hour tinking back, and my hands are starting to hurt now. I think I have to call it. I have recovered, everything's okay, my hands are okay, I fixed my sweater. I'm almost done with the hood. I started on the second short row section. So the hood is kind of like a big heel in that you work a heel flap for the base of the hood, and then you work a bunch of short rows to shape the top into a curve, and then you work a bunch more short rows going the other direction, and you create like this heel shape. So I'm almost done working the second set of short rows, and it's starting to look like an actual hood. And then I'm gonna do the encasement. So I think I can get started on that tonight because I am really close to getting to that stage. It is so dark in my house right now. Like, it is glorious and gloomy outside, but inside, I mean, it's actually nice. It's a really nice ambiance, but for the camera, it's not so nice. So I kind of just decided to lean into that. Here's maybe a better representation of the hood shape. So it's really just a basic shape, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I love short rows. I can knit short rows all day long. There's a cardigan that is like almost entirely made up of short rows, and I'm not sure that it's like my style, but I kind of want to make it because I love knitting short rows. I think it's called like the Lindell cardigan. So since I finished my audiobook, my next audiobook hold came in. It's a horror movie by Paul Tremblay. This one is another super popular one, and I actually already started it. I am 37% of the way through. And I started it I think about a month ago, and then my hold ran out, so I didn't get to finish it. It's a take on the like cursed film trope. So it's set in, well, I think it's set in present day, but a large part of the book is set back in the day in the 90s. And it's about this horror film that never actually was released in its final form, but there were like some clips released, and it kind of built up a cult following at that time. And we're following one of the main characters of this like super low budget student film, and he doesn't have a speaking role in the movie, but we're getting all of these flashbacks of him like remembering his time filming this because they're doing a remake. A lot of the book is like reading the original screenplay, so I'm excited to get back to that, and I'll probably listen to that while I knit tonight. I think I'm doing good on yarn, and I really should have no issues. I mean, I'm definitely running low, but I should be good. I hope it's not too annoying that I haven't like weighed the skein and actually done the math to figure out like if I'm good on yarn. I think I just like in my mind like resigned myself to the fact that if I needed to spin more, like I was just gonna spin more and it wasn't a big deal. But still like hoping that, you know, I could finish this on time. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't even like figure out the stats for this final skein that I spun. I just got right to knitting, and I think that's the thing about really long-term projects. I mean, I started planning this project back in February, and then I bought the fiber I think in like April, and then by the time I had actually received the fiber and spun my first skein, I cast the sweater on in July. So I have been working on this for like the better part of this year, and I'm kind of over it. Like, I still love the finished object, I still want the sweater, but just in terms of actually like working on it, like I'm ready to be done. And that's the thing that happens often for me with really big like long-term projects, and it makes me want to reevaluate the way that I approach certain projects, because I think in certain ways I would like to be more of a monogamous knitter. Like, I'm not annoyed by this project, I'm still enjoying working on it quite a bit, but when it comes down to like doing all the extraneous stuff, or like what I think of as kind of extraneous stuff, like figuring out all of the stats for all of my skeins so that I can keep track of like what my grist is throughout this project. Like, I really wanted to do that, and I did do that up until this final skein, which is why it feels kind of bad, because I just lost steam with doing that. Like, it wouldn't have even been that hard, but I kind of just don't want to at this point. And you know, earlier in this video I was talking about how this final skein, I can tell that my grist is off because it is quite a bit thinner than the initial skeins. But again, I've gotten to that point where I don't want to analyze it anymore. I just want to work on it to finish it. And that can sometimes be contradictory to my like default mindset, where I do want to analyze everything and I want to have a really detailed plan and I want to track everything and I want to just like know all the details about the project that I'm working on. I think the point that I'm trying to make is like, I'm not always going to be perfect at things, and I'm still working on accepting that. Anyway, I'm gonna go heat up some mac and cheese now. I just finished picking up for the hood and I knit a few rounds, and now my hands are starting to hurt, so I think it's time to switch gears and do something different, which means it's time to start prepping my fiber for the drawstring. I'm deciding to go with green. I was gonna go with the one I wanted regardless of the results of that poll that I did. My partner was team blue and I was team blue for a really long time, and I'm deciding to go with green. So the bat that I have is a mini bat from Fat Cat Knits. I bought this on Instagram. It is 2 ounces of targhee, and I think this is my first time spinning with targhee, which is why I decided to choose that fiber. So I'm gonna open this up. Wow, it's just like a normal bat, but shorter. Here's the length of it. It is quite short compared to what you typically see with like a 4 to 5 ounce bat. I think I'm gonna take these darker splotches out. There's only a few of them, but I just don't really want like a super variegated yarn. So I'm gonna try to stick with just this like more mid-tone green as much as possible. So to start here, I'm just opening the bat up. So if you see, like here is an example, it's just kind of like folded onto itself and kind of curling a little bit. So I'm just gonna very gently start to pull that open just so that it's fully flat. All right, so now it's quite a bit wider than it was initially, and that's going to let me split it vertically. So I think I'm going to just start splitting it in half because that's kind of the easiest thing to do at this point. So I just kind of eyeball the halfway point. This one's kind of coming apart, maybe at not quite the halfway point, but that's fine. Generally, there will be like fairly even splits already, and so you can just kind of find that and then pull it apart. But I'm gonna try to manipulate it down the middle a little bit more. So something about there, that's not exactly in the middle. So I'm gonna take a little bit from this side and join it to the other side. Wow, this targhee really pulls apart easily. Okay, so now it's kind of splitting and it's sort of just like falling apart, as you can see. So that's just a natural split and what it wants to do. So now I have 2 pieces, and I could split each of these in half again to have 4 pieces, but I think I'm okay with this width. It's sort of personal preference. You don't want it to be too thin, otherwise you won't have enough room to draft. But it's not an issue to have like a wider piece. You might just have to be more careful when you're drafting. But at this stage, I'm going to start fluffing. This is my favorite way to prep fiber. I used to, when I first started spinning, I learned how to attenuate, which is where you pull the fibers apart in the direction that they're already going. Not like break apart, but you just like loosen them up. And I've since learned that you really don't want to do that just with every fiber. You might want to do that if your fiber is more compact or if you are trying to spin like a certain way. But just for like general default yarn, I now find that fluffing is definitely good enough. And so all that entails is sort of what it sounds like, where you just start kind of piecing it apart. Like you're not breaking it off, but you're just like working the fibers open very gently. Sometimes a bat will kind of break apart as you do this, and if it like fully starts to break apart, I'll just split it like where it's breaking apart, just because I don't really like spinning fiber that is like falling apart as I'm drafting, but I don't think you have to do that. This bat is actually like fairly nice, and it's not taking much fluffing to get this prepped to draft. Again, my first time working with Targhee, so that might just be the nature of this type of fiber. My cat is trying to get into something and it's very distracting. All right, so I've reached the end, and I will do this to the other piece as well, just so that I have it prepped. But first I want to address the darker spots that I think I'm just going to take out. Really all I'm gonna do is just pull the dark pieces out. And you can tell like with the staple length of this fiber, which is really long. I mean, it might not be that long, but it seems quite long to me. But you can tell that it's gonna pull out some of the other, like the lighter greens, and that's fine. Like, I mean, I'm gonna save all of these pieces to use in a different project. Yeah, this pulls apart very easily, which I think means it's gonna be quite easy to draft. So I'm excited to work with it. Okay, so I've hit my next like darker piece, and so I'm just going to pull that apart. So here's a chunk with a lot of the darker green, and again, I'm just pulling this whole thing out. So that left me with 2 pieces from that first half. So now I'm going to fluff the second half and then pull out those darker pieces. I went on a run this morning outside and now it's raining, so that was a good call. We are going out for pizza tonight and we are most likely walking, so pray for me. But I finished all of the knitting on my traveler. I literally just before turning on the camera finished the encasement. Here it is. So it's a little bit hard to see and I just lost a bunch of stitches. 1 second. It's not bound off yet because you put the drawstring in it. So here, let me explain this in case you haven't knit one of these. So after you pick up stitches around the hood, you knit some purl rows. So there's like a purl ridge right here along the pickup, and then you just work stockinette for just a few rows. And on the front side, you add holes. So there's a hole on this edge and there's a hole on this edge, and then what you do is encase it in this stockinette. So you lay it down. There's a video tutorial on how to do this, but you lay it down in the middle here and then you fold that over, and then you just do like a normal folded edge where you work a stitch from the top onto the bottom and then you bind off at the same time, so that you're not having to, you know, fish the I-cord through this like little piece of fabric. So I'm gonna have to wait to do that until I finish spinning the yarn. I'm honestly a little bit in shock that I finished this with like multiple days to go. I mean, I know I haven't finished the entire sweater, but like I finished all the knitting. It's gonna be really hard to see. This is a really heavy sweater and it's pulling the needles out of my stitches, so I have to be careful. But this is quite heavy. I mean, it's worsted spun, and I think my yarn is like a little bit closer to a DK than a sport weight. But here is the finished sweater with the hood on the back. I have 33 grams of yarn left, which is pretty darn close. So I think like all of the math that I did at the very start of this project paid off, and now I kind of have a bit of a better estimate for like how much fiber I actually need for a sweater spin. I'm another 10% into my audiobook and I am liking it a lot so far. I'm not loving the audiobook version of the screenplay scenes, so that's kind of making me wish that I was reading this physically. Okay, I'm getting it back to spinning before we head out for pizza. I love how this video is just knitting, books, food. The I-cord honestly didn't take as long as I thought it would, and 2 days before my goal of Thanksgiving Day, I had an FO. Please clap. This is it before I blocked it, and you can see that the fit is really good. So I was a little nervous to block it, but it had to be done. And on Thanksgiving Day, it was fully dry. And although the sleeves did grow a little, as you can see, I still think it fits well. It's a bit oversized, which fits the cozy vibe of a hoodie. I love the green drawstring. I think it really was the right choice. And even though overall it's a tad bonkers, the colors and the striping bring me a lot of joy, and I've been wearing this every day since I finished it. It's only been a couple days, but still. The hood is really comfy. It doesn't pull weird when I'm wearing it or anything like that. It's just really nice to lounge in, and I can also fit my headphones under it so I can live my gamer girl dreams. And here I'm showing the fit of the body and the underarms. The arm side and the sleeves are a bit too big in my opinion, even before blocking, but I'm gonna get into those details in another video because I'm planning on making an analysis video of this pattern and what I think of it in my experience spinning for a sweater. So I'll see you then.